Like Dominica, I have been singing the praises of the fall colors this week. And last weekend when I was out in the countryside, I must have said, wow, every 5 minutes. I particularly adore the big maples that stand alone in a farmer's field, and were just, last weekend happened to be peat colored. So they were full canopy, all blazing color. It was just so amazingly beautiful. Every leaf on fire. I love those huge old trees that stand alone in a field. And I've been really sort of surprised to find that science shows that trees actually prefer growing together. Trees are in fact social creatures. They talk not just to each other, but to other beings in the ecosystems. And they do this through their roots, which connect to the filaments of a mycelium or a fungi network that extends throughout a forest. And they also release scents and gases into the air to send signals. So a fir tree that is injured by insects will send a chemical warning to a ponderosa pine growing nearby. And then that pine tree will then produce its own defensive enzymes against the insect. They help each other. They're shown to share nutrients with each other in times of crisis. So a healthier tree will actually send some of its carbon and other nutrients to weaker trees. When a tree is dying, they actually release their nutrients in the dying process, and it goes out to help all of the trees in the neighborhood. So those beautiful, majestic trees that I admire so much are actually chatterboxes in constant dialogue with their community. Trees even like having us around. They know when we're close by, and the chemistry of their roots and the perfumes their leaves pump out change when we're near. So when you feel good after a walk in the woods, it may be because certain species are bribing us to stick around. And I don't mind those kind of bribes. These insights come from the groundbreaking work of Canadian ecologist Suzanne Simard. And I really like this image of trees talking together because I think they just demonstrate social wellness so well. Trees do better when they're connected, just like people. Forest trees like Douglas fir and maples and birches have evolved to live in these cooperative, interdependent relationships that are maintained by communications and a collective intelligence. Again, it sounds like people. So while we love all those brilliant fall colors, there's amazing action also happening below the ground. There is an ongoing practice of reciprocity and care in a forest. And I see this Chalice community in a similar way. We have Sunday services that are like the autumn colors, all bright and special, but much of the action is happening out of sight. We share of ourselves in our emails and phone calls. We work together for the garden and the building, and all that creates this community. We help in practices of reciprocity and care. I think of all the people who came out yesterday to help with Alice's memorial. They were building those connections, our little mycelium network amongst ourselves. Like a forest, the more different trees we have, the better. When foresters cut down birches in a forest because they wanted the Douglas firs to grow without competition, disease spread rapidly through the left behind firs. And Suzanne Simard examined the birch fir tree relationship, and she realized that even though the birches were taller, growing faster and shading out the Douglas firs, while they were doing so, they were providing extra and additional nutrients to the firs, so that there was this collaboration to balance out the competition for life. They helped keep the firs strong and healthy. So it's clear that trees do better together when they're entangled in a community. And I think the same is true for people. We live in isolating times. We have fewer friends on average now than people did 20 years ago. More people live alone. More people live far from extended family. We're just busier with work and all sorts of things. And I think in this kind of time, people need communities like this more than ever. They need these UU values of interdependence, love, and justice. They need our green sanctuary, our welcoming community. Everyone needs a space where they can be welcomed as they are, straight or queer, cisgender or trans, whatever the color of their skin or sound of their voice, where they can meet people around shared values. And so we're at this collective, we're a community that's based in shared values, what Susan was talking about this morning, and a common spiritual tradition. And those values are not the same as our cultural norms. So it doesn't really matter if our music is reggae or Vivaldi, if we serve sandwiches or samosas. What matters is that we welcome those who also are seeking that world of interdependence, love, and justice. Just as a forest is stronger with the diversity of trees, our colors grow more brightly when our roots are entangled in a network of care with a variety of people. We are stronger with difference. And it's our work, it's that 8th principle work to keep on learning how to welcome, how to embrace difference, how to evolve and adapt, knowing that we will always continue to be rooted in those shared values of Unitarian Universalism. So as I've said, trees do better connected to other trees, people do better connected to other people. Our babies are born helpless and they need love and care for so many years. For millennia, we lived in groups and gatherings. We're designed to live collectively. That's why people love sitting at a cafe on a busy street, watching people go by, or working together on a project, or getting together for a big party, or even coming here. There's lots of research suggesting that social well-being, that sense of connection to an extended family or a friend group or a sports team or a religious community is a key part of an individual's well-being. Now, of course, some of us love lots of social interaction while others prefer small doses. It's a spectrum. But whether we have a crowd of friends or just 1 or 2 people we spend time with, we all need some intimate connection. Social wellness arises from having those meaningful and supportive relationships so that when we're struggling, we know we're not alone. And when we're happy, we get to share that with others. So it grows, social well-being grows when we have good boundaries that encourage communication and trust, and when we can accept and manage conflict within those close relationships, how we handle the rough times together. That's why here as a community, we have our covenant of right relations that we read out last month, because that reminds us of how we want to treat each other so that we keep our connections strong and healthy. It's our go-to when there is conflict to remind ourselves of our shared values. So social well-being is essential to a person's overall well-being. And again, this is nothing new. The 6th century Chinese philosopher Confucius also identified this. He said that a person's identity arises in part from their interactions with others, that no one exists alone. And he argued for a key virtue known as Ren. And this can be translated as benevolence or kindness or what ties one to another. And Confucius said that to live well, one should seek to cultivate Ren, to cultivate kindness and compassion for others, to build those invisible threads connecting us. And so to practice Ren is to consider somebody else's needs and perspectives and act to support them. So the ancient virtue of Ren and the contemporary psychology of social well-being tell us we do better when we treat each other with care and compassion. And of course, we don't always succeed. We all have our bad times. We all struggle. And nurturing is an ongoing practice. It's not a set state. We'll always have to work at it. I'm just going to end today with a Jewish folktale that speaks to the power of community in difficult times. Once a long time ago, the Jewish people in a town were experiencing great difficulty. And the rabbi of Apt, who was the eldest rabbi in the area, issued a command for a universal fast in the hopes that this sacrifice will call down God's mercy on them and bring them some relief. So the people fast, staying quietly, grumpily home, hungry and worrying. And a much younger rabbi, Israel, sees the silent streets, and he knows about the fear and worry behind the doors. So he spends a day going around inviting local musicians to his house. And they arrive that night and they begin to play on the balcony over the street. This bright and lively music fills the air. People hear the enticing sounds as they sit behind closed doors. And they come out to the street to find out what's happening. A gathering happens underneath the balcony. And at some point, a couple begins to dance. And soon everyone is dancing and smiling and laughing as the music sings out around them. Now, not everyone is impressed by this, and one person goes to complain to the rabbi of Acts that Rabbi Israel has interrupted the fast. And the older rabbi simply smiles and says, Rabbi Israel has remembered the scriptures. Rabbi knew that in times of struggle, it's worth dancing joyfully together, that we're better together, that we're stronger together. Whether times are good or times are bad, there's always room for a song or a dance. And so while there are times in our lives when we must fast or follow our own path, it is good to have a community to dance with. Social well-being helps each of us to thrive as ourselves. And my hope is that we continue to promote everyone's well-being by continuing to create a community that embraces difference, that offers care and compassion and connection, that holds all who seek the chalice. So say we all.